And let's get more insight on Indonesia's findings into the Lion Air crash. For that, we have Professor Brian O'Dwyer from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, Asia. He's an expert on airline management. Thanks for joining us, Brian. Appreciate having you here. So let's look at that report. It made several recommendations to improve air safety. I guess the topmost question is, are they even doable?
Sure. Well, they certainly are doable. I mean, one of the things that's come out of this is the 737 MAX was temporarily grounded, and so that was certainly put in place and doable. But there are 78 actions that 7 different organizations have taken, 25 recommendations in the report across 7 different organizations. There's a lot of work to be done and a lot of parties involved, which really speaks to this wasn't just one thing that went wrong, it was a number of things that went wrong. And generally in aviation, there's certainly a rule of 3, that you generally need 3 sorts of failures to have a catastrophic incident like this. And that across the chain, whether it's the aircraft, the maintenance, the pilot training, other factors that really contributed to this incident.
So saying that, do you think then that the measures are enough to actually address the concerns of this 737 MAX fleet then?
It's a great question, and that's sort of almost the having to have these actions implemented and tested to make sure they're sufficient is a really important question. And in part of it, that's probably part of the reason we're here. I mean, some actions were taken after this incident, and then we still had another one in Ethiopia. So certainly whatever was taken initially was not enough. And then if you take it a step further and say, well, the reason we have this incident, there was a faulty piece of equipment, it was supposedly repaired, it was not tested sufficiently or accurately or at all, and that caused the incident to happen again. So we can make actions, we can make remediations, but until we've tested them thoroughly to know that they're enough, we won't have that full confidence.
So the report also pointed the finger at inadequate pilot training and poor plane maintenance as among the factors that led to the crash. Yeah. Are these things that are so hard to do for airlines? Should we be expecting more of them?
Well, there's a couple ways to look at it. So there's one way to train, which is I train you until you get it right once. Fail, fail, fail. Oh, you passed? Now you're good. And there's another way to train, which is I'm going to train you so you cannot possibly fail.
Yeah,
with the warning horns going off, under pressure, under stress, 200 people die if you can't solve this problem in 30 seconds, but you're going to get it right 10 times out of 10. And so there's sort of a different bar in terms of how well and how deeply you train. The other challenge we have here in Asia, too, is this air traffic system, because it's growing so fast, doubles in 11 years. That's a lot of new pilots, a lot of new regulators, a lot of new air traffic controllers. That's a lot of new maintenance folks. Indeed, a lot of new airlines, a lot of new processes, procedures. When you have that level of growth, it puts enormous strain on these safety policies, procedures, and systems. So I think there is an enormous challenge. Is it doable? Possibly. I mean, without go through all the data, you say, well, look, we haven't had the same levels of incidences in some markets or air traffic systems that are more mature than we have had in Southeast Asia or in this region. And I think part of it's that degree of growth. And so when you look at it, maybe you have to set the bar a little bit higher than it has been historically.
Is it a case of then the regulators having to do more then? Because, I mean, in an environment of high growth, perhaps the local authorities should be taking a look at these airlines with high growth strategies and saying that, hey, we don't want you to compromise on safety and get that right first and then think about expanding.
You raise a great point. I mean, I think safety generally starts with the regulator. And whether that's land transport, air transport, the regulator will sort of start the ball rolling for safety. But what really comes down to is safety culture. And safety culture, is safety our biggest priority, or is it not our biggest priority? Is it a priority amongst other priorities? And that is really the difference between training to get it right once and training so you can never get it wrong.
So for Boeing's part, it says that it has redesigned that MCAS and the angle of attack sensor. Do you think that this is actually enough?
So I would say that if you look at aircraft accidents, and we do this in class actually, we look at aircraft accidents in Indonesia, compare them to aircraft incidents in the United States, 90% of them have some element of human factors or human involvement that are the cause of that incident. So I don't think it's just an equipment issue. There's also a human factors, a training issue, process issue, regulatory issues. Again, 78 different actions have been taken by 7 organizations, from parts suppliers, aircraft manufacturers, regulators, air traffic controllers. I mean, it's a widespread sort of solution to this. It's not just a point solution.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in and, clarifying this for us. It's always great speaking to you. We've been speaking with Professor Brian O'Dwyer from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, Asia.